Hello, welcome. Fireside with Peter Adkison, Season 2. I am Peter Adkison. My co-host is Emma Larkins. Our guest today is Rich Kaalaas. We are broadcasting from the Chaldea Studios on Gen Con TV. On this show, as you know, we go in search of the untold stories behind your favorite games. And we have been focusing on Magic the Gathering, including now in Season 2. We're continuing our focus on Magic because there are so many stories and so many awesome people to talk to that we just couldn't get them all to them. And all to you, back to you, in Season 1. So here we are with Rich. Rich, thank you for being on Fireside.
Hi, Peter. Thanks for inviting me. I'm really excited.
You're excited to be here.
I'm excited. Everyone's excited.
Yeah, woohoo!
It's been fun to watch.
Thank you. Yes, so you've watched a couple of the episodes?
Yes, I have.
It's been kind of like homecoming watching.
Yes.
It's been a great excuse to reach out to people and get together.
Yeah,
yes.
definitely.
Yes. So, if you watch a couple episodes, you know that where we like to start this journey is to kind of talk about, well, who was Rich Kaalaas back before Magic the Gathering, before Wizards of the Gathering? Who were you before then, and how did you become involved in Magic ultimately?
Well, it probably started in college. I was in a gaming group with a couple people, namely Steve Shropshire and Crystal, his wife, who grew up with you in Walla Walla, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and so in our gaming group, I mean, I went to WSU, and I mean, if there was 3 feet of snow on the ground, I was still tromping through 3 feet of snow to go play on Friday nights. So across those 4 years, playing with Steve and Crystal.
And I just got to plug you, Steve Shropshire, who you're talking about, he was my first GM.
Okay.
So when I first learned to play Dungeons and Dragons, I think like a lot of people, I got the box off the shelf.
Yeah.
This is in 1978. I'm looking at the box, reading the rules, and after doing all that, like, I have no idea how this game plays. Like, I don't understand how to play D&D after. But Steve was the first person I went to his campaign and rolled up a character, and I just remember that moment of sitting there at the beginning. I have this character. He says, you're sitting in a bar, and this old mountain man walks into the bar, climbs up on one of the tables, and starts yelling about the problems with orcs. All of a sudden, I get it now.
Yeah.
Like that moment, right? Long diversion, but I had to give a plug out to Steve.
Yeah,
my first experience playing.
He's amazing. I mean, we had such a great time, and his wife Crystal was such a great player. And so anyway, but throughout these 4 years, he would talk about Peter and the gaming back in Walla Walla. And so when I left Pullman, I went to Seattle, and I knew that you existed in the Seattle area somewhere out there. But Steve didn't know really how to get a hold of you either. So it was actually through another friend of mine who we were looking at these game boards actually a bulletin board where you actually put push pins and 3x5 cards.
Yes.
Somebody was looking for new players, and so we happened to connect in and get invited over to this couple's apartment. I think it was in Renton at the time.
Because this is how you found people to play with back in those days. You didn't go to the internet. You went to the local hobby game store.
The what?
And there was an opponent's wanted section, a pinup board with notices and phone numbers.
You can just Google it, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we showed up, and the funny thing is I walked in, I met this guy, Peter, and then his wife at the time, Kathy, and so I said, "So are you Peter Adkison?" "Well, yes, I am." "Well, I just got done gaming with Steve Shropshire for 4 years, and I've been looking for you. Here's the sword I present to you."
Oh my God!
So yeah, it was like a quest in a way. So
this is probably around 1986, right?
Yeah.
So because I moved to Seattle in '85, and it was shortly after that because we gamed. The summary of this story is we gamed together for many years before we started Wizards. So if you talk about Wizards of the Coast growing out of Peter Adkison's old gaming group.
Yep, definitely.
This is the old gamer, one of the old gamers in that old gaming group, right?
And it was just, I mean, I hate to use the term, but it was a magical time. I mean,
it was a magical time.
It was a magical time.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Makes sense.
No, I'm just going from Steve Shropshire's campaign and then shifting into play with you and this crowd of such amazingly creative people, and how the campaigns were actually connected together through the portal system. It was a very the evolution of it was pretty amazing. And I also come to find out that one of the guys who I actually had been an RA to ended up being Steve Connard, who
Who was the first guest on our show, by the way.
I walked in because
Fireside.
he was at the apartment, and I was like, "Why do you look so familiar?" He's like, "You look familiar too." And suddenly we found out that we had actually had been around each other at WSU. Anyway, so then fast forward 4 years, I guess.
After 4 years, gaming together, making all sorts of great stories.
Causing lots of trouble, killing
trouble,
lots of things, being killed many times by you.
Yes. Yes.
All with love, I'm sure. Then it was that one night. I think it was a Monday night or Friday night. Anyway, you said, "Hey, everybody, I want to have everyone come to my apartment at this time. I have something I want to talk about." And it was that night that you said, "I want to start a company, and we're going to make games, and we're going to
That was
show."
in May of 1990.
Was it May?
May of 1990.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On a Monday or a Friday.
Monday or Friday?
Or a Friday.
Yeah.
It was
And everyone, what was the reaction to that? So you gave this proclaimment. Is
Yes.
everyone like, yay? You're like,
That's a good question for you.
So have you ever had context with this man? He's probably, he's so amazingly enthusiastic and engaging and a leader and so intelligent and smart. But, it's like, for me, it was like, heck yeah. If anyone's going to make it happen.
yeah.
So, yeah, I was excited.
And I was 29. So, good thing I wasn't older, and I had figured out how to be
You're like,
naive and dumb.
20 years later, we don't want to start a company.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Never
Sounds
do
like a
that
lot of
now.
work.
But no, we were all, it was pretty exciting. And we
were
were
all
like,
kids.
yeah, let's do it. What do we have to lose?
Yeah,
we all have, we're all working generally and making, starting money. And so then we started off, and it was funny because one of the quotes that's even been used that I told people is that, oh yeah, we were throwing around VP positions like candy. You be the VP of this, and you be a VP of this. But we were leveraging off of different people's sort of strengths, and because some people had print production background, and some people had marketing background, and some people
Yeah. So what did we? So that happened. So what did you do? What did you do in the beginning?
What
did I
were you
do?
VP of?
Yeah.
What was I VP of? Well, it kind of got moved around a little bit, but so the first thing that I said is that, Peter, my background is in graphic design, and I said, well, let me do the logo.
Okay.
Cue. Well, yes, I've learned I'm supposed to give cues for when we want to show a visual. So we actually have the very first Wizard of the Coast logo.
Yes.
Is it up? Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. This that Rich designed.
Yeah.
And by the way, it is still my favorite Wizard of the Coast logo of all time because it's so moody. It's this castle.
It's gamery.
It's like a wizard castle by the coast.
Yeah. Which was a faction in your campaign, which I think people should know too.
Actually, it was in Bruce's campaign.
Oh, was it Bruce's?
Yes, but yeah. It was the Wizards of the Coast was a Wizards Guild in another D&D campaign that we played in, and it was we always feared the Wizards of the Coast. If a Wizard of the Coast showed up in a fight, we would just pretty much put down our arms and walk away because we were so terrified of them. And so when we had the idea of starting a company, I think it was either Daryl or Terry who said, we should call a company Wizards of the Coast. And we were like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And that was it. It was like, it took 2 minutes to decide the name of the company.
Yeah.
But it took you much longer than that, probably 20 minutes or a half hour
20,
to design the logo.
35 to be exact.
35
No,
minutes.
it was, I had played enough. I had played since the box days, 1978 or so. And so I just wanted the logo to, I don't know. We obviously couldn't do a full color logo because we had no money in those days. We had to do something simple.
We weren't allowed to paint.
Although the design did pose its own challenges later on. But then it evolved. It actually went through a number of renditions to the current logo.
Yes,
so.
and no offense, obviously, even though yours was my favorite, I really loved the Kim's version of the logo that she did years
Kim
later.
Baruffi designed the rectangular one, and then after that, she worked with a typography specialist in Seattle.
Designed the
The arced one, actually, which was when we did the retail venture.
right.
Yep.
So let's jump forward to the Gamma Trade Show in 1991. I think this was
I think it was, well, it must have been 1991.
Yes, had to have been 91 because
Right.
90 was the year we started the company. 92 we came out with Primal Order, so it was well before we came out.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
February.
Yeah.
February, I think, is when the Gamma shows up.
Yep.
So yeah, so the other thing that I was told by Peter that why he sent me to Gamma is because I was, passively good looking. And that's even in an article.
Is that a hostile work environment thing to tell an employee? I'm sending you to the trade show because you're awfully cute.
Yeah, actually, I read that for the first time in an article. I was like, what? Okay. But anyway,
So what the Gamma Trade Show is,
Yeah,
first of
good
all,
point.
so this is in the world of tabletop games and role-playing games and this whole industry, still now, there's one trade show that exists in our industry, and it's called the Gamma Trade Show, or GTS. Gamma stands for the Game Manufacturers Association, but it's also for distributors and retailers and even convention operators. So I had learned, we had been working on our first products, the Primal Order, etc., for about a year, and we were finally coming around to the idea, like, okay, we're going to finish this game product within our lifetimes, apparently. And how do we sell it?
Yeah.
And I had no idea how to sell a game. And so, I know where to buy games at retailers, so I went to a retailer and asked them, how did you buy this?
Where did it come
it's a
from?
fair question.
Like,
It's a
how did you
totally
buy
fair
this?
question.
Who did
Right.
you buy it from? And I started asking questions basically about how the industry worked, and this retailer said, you really need to go to the Gamma Trade Show.
Absolutely.
And and you will network and learn all about distribution and retail and all that stuff like that. And I said, okay, that sounds, and I was just, I know I don't come across as a very introverted person, but for some reason the idea of going there just terrified me. And I said, I thought of you as more outgoing, better at networking, going up and talking to strangers, like you're a really friendly, affable person, you know? And so I asked Rich to go, and it was kind of a scaredy cat thing of me to do. And
Threw me to the gamer wolves.
I threw you to the gamer wolves and the white wolves, apparently.
And the White Wolves, yeah. So and it was funny. I think I was, as we were leading up to this interview, I was like thinking about what was my mindset. And I think I was just sort of like, what do I have to lose? Let's just go talk to people.
Yeah.
You know?
Go to Vegas.
Go to Vegas. Yeah, I was in Vegas, of all places.
Right.
Actually, it's still in Vegas, right?
It's in Reno now.
It's
Is it
in
in
Reno
Reno?
now.
Yeah.
A lot
And
cheaper.
It has moved a couple times. There was a
Yeah.
period where it was in Vegas, and then it moved and went to a couple other places,
Right.
Miami once even, and then came back to Vegas. Was there at Vegas for a number of years, and
Yeah.
now it's at Reno. Who knows?
So-
I think everybody's thinking it's going to go back to Vegas eventually. Who knows?
So went to Gamma, signed up for a few sort of presentations, and it actually was at this one luncheon that I just happened to go to. I was in line and knew nobody, so I wasn't really talking to anybody. But as I was in line,
You weren't talking to people
well,
already?
I was. Sorry, yeah. Hey, I ended up doing okay. So in front of me was this woman, and I heard her talking with some of her compatriots, and I heard her comment that work that they were doing, and I think that they mentioned Vampire, and so I come to realize that it was with White Wolf, which was at that time was a very established gaming company, and so
It had just become established
Yeah.
with Vampire. I mean, it had been around for a while, but with Vampire the Masquerade,
Yeah.
came out in 1991.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
I thought it'd been out before that.
So I think, who knows, somebody out there is checking my
Internet.
Google, somebody get Google Foo. But I think that it was like the hot new thing
Yeah.
in the industry.
and prior to that was White Wolf magazine.
White Wolf magazine had been
Right.
around for
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, I met this woman, Lisa Stevens.
Yes.
And it's funny to hear Lisa talk about the meeting and then have my frame of reference because, anyway, Lisa was amazing, and we hit it off immediately, and we actually spent a lot of the weekend sort of talking throughout and going different things, and we I remember there was drinking and dancing, but we also did some conversations
There was
about
work.
games. There was work.
Yeah.
But it just we just started talking, and I sort of talked about some of our ideas, and I did. Lisa made the comment later. She's like, Rich probably shouldn't have told me as much as he already did. But anyway, so
Trade
but
secrets.
had this amazing weekend getting to know Lisa and some of the guys from White Wolf, and So when I came back with all this information, I basically did an information dump with Peter and kind of connected you and Lisa to start talking, because at a certain point, it's like I couldn't be the main conduit. And
Right. Yeah, and it's and by the way, we had Lisa on the show, so we got to hear the story from her, and it's pretty consistent. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, and Lisa, and that led to well, first of all, the immediate need that we had, which was, as a company, how do we sell products?
Distribution.
How do we price products?
Yeah.
Who are the distributors? What are their terms? How to get a US, a product codes,
Right,
and
yeah.
ISBN number, all of the basics of how to publish a product. Lisa was a fountain of information for us and very
Huge
open
assistance.
with this. And then, but of course, one thing led to another, and she decided to move to Seattle. She had a falling out with her colleagues at White Wolf, and she came up and joined Wizards of the Coast.
And was it the first official hire? Because usually,
well, I think the way I think that Lisa Stevens was the first full-time paid employee.
Right.
That's right.
Because I once said that she was our first employee, and Beverly oh no, she wasn't the first employee. She was just our first full-time paid employee.
Yeah.
So
we had there were other employees, but she was the first full-time.
Yeah. We had she was first time. So yeah, but we already had Beverly was of course already working with us. Jay Hayes and Kathleen, of course.
Right. Yeah.
So.
But it made a huge difference. So and then.
So Lisa came to Seattle. Yes.
Yeah.
That was fun. So now, did you when you came back from Gamma? It wasn't too long. At what point did you kind of have to ease off of working at Wizards because your day job? I mean,
so this wasn't your full-time thing.
No.
Okay.
So I actually worked at a silkscreen company, and as the years kind of went on, my responsibility was growing there, and I mean, there was I remember it distinctly. I was in my office that I shared with sort of a professional. That's a weird phrase. A colleague who we were peers, but she and my boss actually came in and they closed the door and said, "We need to talk to you about your performance, because this startup company, which we've been being flexible with you, it's really taking a lot of your time, and it's really kind of you are jeopardizing what we need you to do, and so we need you to make a decision, either transition out or refocus here." And that was in '93. No, I'm sorry, 92, because it was just when Magic was getting going and it was under development, and you were working with Richard, and I think that it was even at that point that the name, no, actually I don't think the name had changed from Mana Clash into Magic yet. So, but I had to pull back and kind of focus on my full time, because I had to pay rent, and and I actually even think at this time I was living with you and Kathleen.
Yes.
So I still got the exposure to it, but I wasn't.
But at some point we had to okay, we got to quit giving you work. But I think it was about the time Lisa came to Seattle, or I don't know if it was before or after.
Actually, that happened before she came. Before that, and it actually was also too. I forgot that time-wise, she moved out to Seattle when I was living with you and Kathleen. But it was also at the time that I was coming out.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going through major personal transitions, but all good.
Yes.
Yeah, because I remember that time. Because it was actually Kathleen was the first person, along with Barb Hines, who thought that I might be not as straight as I assumed. I think it had something to do with the number of shoes I had. But it was in that time that I was kind of, and I will say that you and Kathleen being my roommate, and then also too the corporate culture that sort of evolved around Wizards of the Coast was one of the reasons why I think that transitional process was not as difficult as many other people may have gone through.
Right.
Because Wizards was a very sort of culturally diverse company. I mean, very culturally diverse. And so really that wasn't a much easier process. But anyway, I had to step back.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you for being comfortable mentioning that.
Oh yeah.
It was.
It's like my eyes are hazel. Oh, I'm gay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, it was part of, but the whole company grew in that moment to some extent too, because we were all, I was a guy from Idaho. I was raised in a very conservative farming community. So was Steve. You know, we were. It was part of the process of us all growing up and becoming professionals, getting out of school and finding jobs and starting companies and our game group and like, oh, and Rich is gay. Okay, you know, like, okay, we're all gonna figure out what that means. And I'm glad you looked back and found that we were supportive and in our naivety and.
But I think, well, the thing is that through those years of gaming and then starting this company, it really forged so many different aspects of our friendship that I think that made it comfortable that when I did, you know, become more honest with that, it was just another facet to our friendship, both you and Steve and, you know, everybody else that was sort of involved in that thing. So, but yeah, so with the business, I actually did have to step back from Wizards and focus on my other career for a while. Right.
Yeah, you're.
Yeah, I'm interested. And then what happened next?
I thought you were going to you started the question. Yeah, so I think that it was about 3 years later before you were able to really come back.
Yeah.
So it was 90, so this is I guess well, maybe closer to 4 years then, because Lisa came out in 1991. Just to go through the timeline a little bit, in 1992, Wizards came out with their first product with Primal Order. 1993, we came out with Magic the Gathering. And so you really did miss all of the launch of Magic the Gathering. I mean, you got vicariously through us, you know, because we were still friends.
Right.
But so take us up to when you finally were able to be hired, become part of the full-time team. Was in 95, right?
It was 95. I was with somebody at that time, living in Federal Way, and I just got to the point where I wanted to do something different, and so I gave my notice at the silkscreening company I was working at, and I made the decision that I was going to step away and do graphic design full time as well as software consulting.
And you made that decision independent of any sort of offer from Wizards.
Yes.
This was the life choice.
Yeah. It was a week later that Kathleen heard through the vine that I was stepping away, and Kathleen's like, by the way, why don't you come back to us? And I was like, oh. And I said, well, what does that look like? And she said, well, we have this marketing team, and there's a lot of design work that is done in it. And I think that they had a designer part-time, and so I know that in talking with you and the three of us talking, it was like, here's what we can do for you. And I was like, you know what? I mean, here, work by myself, working with design clients and working by myself, or go back and work with my friends. Yeah, not even, it was like, okay, great. I appreciate that. Sure, let's get back together. Let's get back together. So yeah.
So you came into Wizards. What was your first job?
First job. So I was a graphic designer for the marketing department. They had, it was fun. I shouldn't say it's funny. They had a number of newsletters that they were doing. I think it was like 4 external and 2 internal, something like that. But addressing different aspects of the business, distribution, sales. The internal one, there was a couple different ones. One was about, I think specifically about what was going on in Magic, and the other one was more company, what's going on in the company. And then,
a shareholder newsletter, I think, was the one.
That was one of them.
Yeah.
So I started in the marketing department. 2 of the people that I worked with quite a bit when I was there was Rias Hall, who I know you had on the show.
We had a great time with Rias.
Love Rias.
Yes.
And then also James Ernest.
Yes. We had James's wife, Carol Monahan, was on the show. Yes.
Love
great.
Carol.
Yeah.
And so I got sort of dropped into this group, and although all my other friends from the gamer days are still there, it was nice to sort of be in a group that I really didn't know from prior, and so I sort of got back into the Wizards groove with this team in the marketing department for a while.
For a while.
Yeah.
Until. So let me set the stage a little bit. So by the fall of 1995, so nearly a year before that, in the winter of 94, the company went through a really major, the first sort of big test of the company post the launch of Magic, which was the Fallen Empires debacle, which we've talked about from a number of different angles in this show.
Right.
The first, where the bubble burst, if you will. And in the wake of that, we as a company responded by repositioning the branding of Magic the Gathering, what Magic the Gathering stood for, from being a collectible trading and casual play to a competitive sport. And and it's great because the strategy worked, and Magic found new life under this positioning. And
so in that time there was the creative director was working on trying to centralize the art department, because there were a few sort of satellite designers in the company, and so she really centralized the art department. I joined the art department, and it wasn't long after that I think it was you that came and said, or no, maybe it was a current creative director, but anyway. So there was a need for the OP, the organized play, that they wanted somebody to sort of take that and be the art director for the organized play. And so that was actually my first big sort of, getting to work directly on Magic, as the organized play division really was becoming in existence with Karin Krisnick and Rick Ahrens and Scap Elias and Susan Scheid. Yeah, and so we got together, and I put in my ideas, and they had their ideas, and Rick was very much about, I want to make this sort of make it feel like a sport. And so I took references from sort of like national soccer teams and how graphic they were, using a lot of block colors, a lot of striping, some textures, but I wanted it to feel distinctly different from Magic, because Magic, if the cards, is very textural and very, it just has a lot of sort of visual activity to it. So I wanted the organized play to be a little bit more some calm space and more sort of sports graphics back then, I should say.
So what were these assets used for? So you're designing all these assets for the organized play, and where did they appear?
Banners, video screens, merchandise. They had a lot of OP-specific Magic the Gathering merchandise.
The Duelist sideboard, maybe?
Yep,
Which
Duelist.
was a newsletter that we had
for
It's actually one of the newsletters I did.
Yes, yes, it was a newsletter.
For organized play
for
specifically?
Organized play,
Okay,
right.
yeah.
There was a big push on newsletters
Yeah.
before the internet kind of made all that
What's
obsolete.
a newsletter? Is this like a paper thing?
Yeah,
you get in
it was
the
a
mail?
paper thing. It was mail.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Yes.
We did. Yeah, they did scope back and consolidated, so it wasn't as newsletter heavy after like the first couple months I was there. I don't know if it was my decision, but anyway. So organized play. I mean, it was, again, it just was this amazing time where, as Rick was rolling out this concept of this is the smart person's game to play, and people ate it up. I mean, it was pretty lightning striking.
I feel like the Wizards organized play program that we did in that era of 1995, 96, 97 was really the progenitor of eSports.
Yeah. I was going to ask, was there anything before? Did other games really have organized play before that as much?
Before Magic the Gathering, you're not going to find much in the way of organized play of any game that's owned by a company. You would find organized play for things like chess.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Or bridge, certainly. And but because those games weren't owned by a company, there was no company that had the vested interest in financially supporting the organized play to a big deal. Where us, because we owned the trademarks for Magic the Gathering, any money that we put into things like prize packages and stuff like that, we would recoup that money. And so we were in the position to do sort of the first organized play that's of a company-owned game.
Yeah.
In the tabletop.
Yeah.
Sphere on a big scale.
Yeah. Right. Intellectual combat. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
When people would say, well, what's Magic like? And my analogy is it's sort of like chess crossed with bridge, crossed with steroids. Because it is, I mean, the concept just worked.
So you got to go in and design a lot of what would emerge as the look of Magic and within the competitive environment, like what it would look like when you would go to a tournament and you would see banners on the wall. We don't think of these things very tangibly because they're not the cards themselves and so on, right? But there is this very subtle influence on how you feel about where you're at based on all the graphics you see that surround you, and also not just at the events, although that's a big part of it, the type of of correspondence that goes out relating to these events, and the type of advertisements that we were running about the events, and coverage by ESPN. When I remember the Pro Tour got put on ESPN, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you got to pioneer a lot of that.
Yeah, and it's evolved from where I started.
Of course.
'cause,
Yeah. Just like the logo.
Right. But yeah, it was a great team. I mean, we butted heads, but we also, I feel, really came up with something exceptional. So I was really proud of that time frame.
It's great. Well, and it's I think we're really proud that, of the time we spent at Wizards, in so many ways. It's really good.
As I talk about it, I remember more stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that was not the apogee of your career at Wizards of the Coast. You went.
There's more.
There's more. You went on and did other things.
Why do I feel tired?
Even
No.
bigger than that.
Yeah. No. I mean, yeah, it was quite the roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
So at the time when I took over as art director for Organized Play, the current creative director and the head of production sort of had a falling out, and so the creative director decided to move on to other things.
Now, and that person was responsible for all art and graphics throughout all of Wizards of the Coast.
She has centralized everything under, and I think at that time the department was about 12 to 13 people.
Yeah.
And so. But her decision to leave, which I totally respected, but it left this void of the lead. There was no leader in our team, and so and we went. I think it was like we went 7 to 9 months without a creative director, and for morale was just really rough.
It was shit.
It was. It really was. I mean, I'm sitting there. So I was in this really weird space because I could totally feel for the predicament that the team was in, and the designers and the art directors. At the same time, too, I was one of the charter members of the company, so I was in this sort of like dual role, and it was really hard to watch. And I think all told across those 7-9 months, I think we interviewed like 21 different creative directors to find the role of somebody who would do it. And it was just, and the morale was getting
wanted to do it.
Yeah, and the morale was just getting worse and worse. And so, I mean,
we were really wrestling with it. And just put this in time frame. Vince was there now by this time, right?
Yes, he was there. Yep.
And so this had to have been at least 1997 or later. The year we bought TSR was 97.
So this was early 97 then. Yeah, it was early 97. Yeah. Yeah, I know why it's early 97 now in my mind. And I'll explain in a second. So anyway, I mean, I knew that I always had Peter's ear, and I knew that we would chat from time to time, but I also don't like to, he had enough on his mind. But just got to the point where I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. So I walked into Peter's office one day, I said, hey, can we talk? And he's like, yeah, sure, of course. And I said, I don't necessarily have the creative chops background, but I definitely have managed people before, both at these other couple of companies. I said, morale is really bad. I said, I want to put my name in for the creative director position. And so this is one of those surprising moments I had with Peter. Peter looks at me, he's like, I was wondering when you're going to toss your hat in the ring.
Oh my God.
I was like, damn you, Peter Adkison. So yeah, so we had an interview with Vince and Peter, and Sue McNabb was there, I think, at that time, and
head of HR for
head of HR.
Years, yeah.
And so so I got the job, which
Woohoo, yay.
but it posed its challenges. Like I said, morale was awful. Here I was, somebody who was already was a charter member of the company. Here I am coming in, not as much of a creative background or creative history as what the prior art director had. But I knew what I needed to do. So then I started stepping in. I think that, and I can't remember, I think that Jeremy Cranford took over as art director for Organized Play. I believe. I cannot remember for sure. Anyway, so really one of the things that was one of my top priorities, that was a major conversation at that time, was Magic the Gathering artist contracts. At the time, Sue Ann Harkey was the art director, and so we've been working a lot with Sue Ann and a number of other people. Kim Francisco, I think Jay Nylander was in on that conversation. We were really trying to restructure how the artist contracts were so that there was some equanimity between the artists and the company, because there was definitely some challenges that we needed to repair. So that was one of the things that actually I felt really happy about. It was one of the first things that we sort of tackled and evolved that relationship better. And then
it's good to have an early win when you take on a new job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean there are other challenges, and I definitely had my pitfalls too, that I did not make the best decisions. But it was only like about a month or two later that Peter came to me and said, "Oh, by the way, we're buying TSR."
Surprise!
And so then Peter, I think one of the early people that Peter said, "Okay, I need you to go out to TSR in Lake Geneva, and I want you to interview the whole art team."
Yeah, for those who don't know, TSR was the name of the company that owned Dungeons & Dragons and Gen Con. And before, we bought them in 1997.
And this was a team whose products, since 1978, had influenced me and this guy and all our friends. Yeah. And so when you go to Lake Geneva and you're seeing artists like Jeff Easley and Tony Sudlow and R.K. Poe and all these amazing artists, and then art directors and designers, it was definitely sort of a, I need to reality check myself.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so it was definitely, after taking over as creative director for a 12-person, 13-person team, when we went through the process of acquiring TSR and then moving everybody out, the creative team jumped to 50 to 55 people.
Wow. Right.
Yeah, so that was interesting.
Huge. So, some more you want to say on that?
Well, I was going to say, because of that, though, I knew that I had to look at figuring out how to restructure the team so that, because obviously you can't have like 30 direct reports. So one of the things that I feel was a good move, actually two really good moves, as online was sort of becoming now coming to the forefront, and Wizards was very much the forefront of having a website and this whole new internet thing, bringing in John Shindahedi from Dallas to be the online art director, and then almost at the same time, I hired in Ron Spears to sort of head up the artists and illustrators group. He's a gentleman and art director that I worked with at my prior company and was amazing. And so working with a lot of the illustrators that we got in from TSR, because a lot of those guys and ladies, I think most of the guys, really took a lot of their creativity from the TSR side of it and actually worked crossways with the Magic creative team. And so I think it just took Magic.
Well, we got Don Mirren.
And Don Mirren from the art direction side. Yeah. Don Mirren, who was responsible for all the redesign for 3.0 and those amazing core rulebook sets with the actual sculptural art that she had commissioned and worked with for the covers. Anyway,
so let's go back. I'm going to take us back a little bit more towards Magic again. Okay. So we've kind of gone through a really cool narrative arc. Now you are king of art and graphics design by the time the time before the end of our time at Wizards of the Coast. Along the way, what do you remember? I know you told me about some interesting travel stories that you had. You got to travel for the company to some interesting places. Yeah. Anything along there you want to tell us about, or any stories along our trip?
So one of the things that during my years as creative director, and it had started before, is that because Magic had become really this global game, and I think at that time it was translated into 14 different languages. I think it's now up to like 20 plus.
I have no idea.
Yeah, but the thing that was really sort of paramount during that period is that trying to get some more international representation from the illustrators.
Nice.
One of our big artist that we got was Paolo. I can't remember Paolo's last name, from Italy.
Oh yeah.
He's Italian treasure painter, and so we had reached out to him, and he had started doing some cards, because we wanted to be reflective of the fact that this wasn't just a U.S.-based game. This is an international game now, and so I had the opportunity as a creative director to go and do portfolio reviews at some of these game and comic con and art festivals. And so Lucca, Italy, was a big one. It's just
and that show's amazing. But Lucca was a big show back then in the '90s, and now it's just crazy. It's like it's still one of.
And it's a tiny little town.
I know.
They just take it over.
They see a massive number. It's like as big as Gen Con, maybe bigger. I don't know. It's huge.
Yeah.
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 So that was one of the trips I got to go on and had a great time and hung out a lot with the Italian office, the Wizards Italian office, as well as Paulo himself. And so one thing that I just thought was funny, this little anecdotal conversation. So we were at dinner and they said, well, what sort of food do you like, Rich? I said, well, I actually like Italian food. And they're like, Italian food? You have Italian food in the U.S.?
Oh.
Well, yes, actually, we do have Italian food in the U.S. But yeah, so it's just funny how.
Look at a Beppo.
They're like, oh, it's not.
No, real. So no, the trip like that, and then
It's
also.
okay, they're not a sponsor. You can make fun of them.
Okay. No, and then I had an opportunity to go to Yokohama to the World Championships, and while at the World Championships, we did portfolio reviews for a lot of Japanese artists, and so. But it's just, I mean, to have that opportunity to sort of gather these artists and then bring it back and then basically turn it over to the senior art director of Magic, and just say, well, I like this one and this one and this one, but it's your decision. So yeah.
Well, that really shows. I mean, one of the things I've been talking with a lot of people about Magic over the last couple of days, and it like care being given to the mechanics, to people who care about playing the game, who care about collecting it, and the art. And that's something, I mean, something that keeps me coming back, playing 28 years ago, like coming back to the present time, just like the art is really what makes it stand out. As a game, the history of the art.
I think I've told this story before. Probably every story I have I've told before several times. But that's what the wonderful thing about getting old is you can just start keep doing the same stories over and over, and everybody has to pretend. Anyway, but I like the idea. Magic, the art was so important for Magic, and I remember talking about how Magic, when it first came out, there was a short period after it came out, but before everybody knew what it was, where we were doing the hard sell. We were going to conventions, and we were demoing Magic and showing them. People would go by, never heard of it before. The thing that always draw people in was the art.
Yes.
People would look down, they would see all this color art, fantasy art.
Yeah.
Kind of cool and edgy for the time.
Yeah.
Covering the table and going, well, what is that, right?
Yeah.
And of course, Magic the Gathering has now, after 25 years, 26 years? 26 years of making amazing color art.
Yeah, it set the bar. I mean, it really did set the bar.
Yeah.
I look at a lot of the games that I play, even currently, and I think about the bar that Magic kind of set, because other game companies, when Magic sort of became that sort of success, I think it just sort of elevated people's awareness that, hey, we can't just throw my uncle's illustration on this product. It's got to be something that is representative of the level of complexity and dynamic and enjoyment of the game itself. There had to be sort of that sort of matching up of quality of art as well. So
it's great. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you traveled around. You saw some portfolio. What did you think of Magic as a game? Did you like playing Magic?
I love playing Magic.
Okay.
I love playing Magic.
Yeah.
No, I think I was even sharing a story that so I'd go to some pre-release tournaments,
right?
And it was called gunslinging. Had people talk about gunslinging?
Yes, we used to always
I
don't know. Have you ever heard that term?
I haven't heard.
So evidently that term has fallen out of vogue. Back in the early days of Wizards of the Coast, when we would go on to conventions and play Magic with the general public, especially if somebody like Richard was with us or anybody from R&D.
Yeah.
If none of those people, then me. Third choice.
I was like fourth or fifth.
or an artist, fourth, fifth choice, right?
Yeah.
But we'd sit at a table and just play Magic with anybody. It was called gunsling. People would come up and play Magic with us.
Yeah.
And it was before. I mean, because it's such a matured game now. There are sets that sort of fade that are not like current sets. I don't know all the rules, but we just. I mean, I still have my deck that I would gunsling with. It's a blue deck, and it was really mean and hateful.
A control deck.
Oh yeah.
Oh geez.
So I was at this one pre-release. I think it was in Hawaii, and it was the release.
That's a tough gig.
That's a tough gig, I know. Yeah. So I was playing this kid, younger kid, and he was putting every round. He'd put out a mana. I do my thing. I was doing a little bit of damage to him left and right. Put out another mana, and it was when they had this really amazing.
Wait, he had no creatures?
He had a few creatures, but then I could tell that he was building up to something.
Right.
So 9 mana, tap, 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 tap. Tika's Dragon. It was his artifact dragon. Boom! And he was so proud of that Tika's Dragon. And the next round, I controlled Magic and I killed him. And so I did. I felt bad.
Yeah.
I felt bad. Sorry, I felt bad.
The whole idea. I mean, I have to admit, I never really liked the idea of like, let the customer win. I mean, to me, that just doesn't feel.
No, because
like...
he went home and he would go home and tell that story. Oh my God, I was playing this guy.
Yeah.
I think he was from R&D. Don't even know who he was. Yeah. But gunsling was a lot of fun, and I still play from time to time. Although now what it is that I have friends who are like teachers in high school or who they say, oh, can you come talk to my class that plays Magic? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so I go, and I'm so out of context though. I don't have any of the current cards. Yeah. Or if I pull out a white deck and I like put down an Alpha Sarah Angel and it's not in a sleeve or anything, and people freak out about that.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a piece of paper, guys. It's just a piece of paper. But anyway. So yes, I did like playing. That was the long answer.
No, that's okay. So looking back, over here we are in 2019. We've known each other 34 years, something like that.
Since 1986.
Yeah.
So what's that?
Math.
80.
14 and 90. Yeah, 35 years.
35 years.
Yeah.
Wow. You look the same.
You look good too. It's a good thing we're still young.
Right.
Those years, being a part of Wizards in the 90s, what do you look back? What do you think? Like, how do you reflect on it?
Well, first of all, having this opportunity, it brings back like that. I mean, there's definitely that nostalgia and excitement.
Yeah.
I mean, I started a company with my friends, and it was successit's
Yeah.
And so so that was a big part of it. And so to be able to kind of go back and know that and so it's great. It's awesome. Hey, and you know what? There's nothing. So another thing, there's nothing like being when I was out and about and traveling. It was after Pokemon had been released in North America, and the Wizards was responsible for that. Seeing a kid playing on his Pokemon, and I'd walk up to this mom. We were on a pool deck on the top of some hotel, and I said, "Oh, I see your son likes Pokemon. Oh yeah, do you mind if I give him something?" No, not at all. So I actually had a Pokemon booster pack and handing that to him. Those types of moments that I had the opportunity to do that, and the kid was just like, "Oh my God!" And it was when Pokemon. I mean, like when people were selling their sneakers to get Pokemon.
Right.
So I mean,
there's those moments.
Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, it totally keeps me, the kid in me.
What do you think? I mean, thinking back on our friendships, what we went through as a circle of friends, starting a company together. What do you think about that aspect of it? What do you?
Well, I think we had chatted about it. It was actually, there was times where it was tough. When we went from gaming together for 4 years, which was amazing role playing.
Yeah.
From that point, when we started the company, we stopped gaming.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
We stopped gaming. We didn't play another. We played a little bit in other people's campaigns, but it really kind of, all of that creative energy got really more funneled towards the company than it did to the gaming, which I actually do think, although it was hard, and those days I know we missed those days, but I think it's actually one of the reasons why the company succeeded. So because there was a lot of energy and thought and creativity in those campaigns and how that all tied together, and I think that because those campaigns were tied together, I think that actually helped us succeed in the fact that here we are putting all our creative energy into a company, and those connections still existed, but it's just in a different sort of evolution.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was. We grew up,
Yeah, it happened.
we grew up, and now a lot of us are back gaming a lot more.
Right, yeah.
Oh yeah, every Monday night.
Yeah, I mean, it was, the 90s. I think back of the 90s is like, 1990 is the year I stopped gaming, and then 1999 is I started again. Basically,
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
it was just nonstop work.
Yeah.
Work.
You did a great job.
Oh, well, I wasn't angling for a.
I know you weren't, but I'm going to say it anyway. Yeah.
Why? Well, thank you.
I mean, were we perfect? Oh, hell no.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think we look back, and for me, I try not to live with those regrets. I mean, I recognize the sort of the negative aspect of thinking about things you could have, and I don't spend much energy on that. But you do think, you can't help it.
Right.
It's like, oh man, I screwed up, that, and I screwed up that. And, you life
Even
goes
like
on.
20 years ago, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
30 years ago
Yeah.
almost,
Yeah.
A couple hours ago.
I front loaded a lot of those mistakes, most of them in the early, a lot of
Yeah.
things in the early 90s, As we got better and better at things, we became
Right.
less, at least we weren't making sort of the dumb mistakes as often, the naive mistakes.
Now I just make other dumb mistakes.
Yeah.
But,
Well, and I remember you were, when you told the story about throwing your hat in the ring for the creative director
Yep.
position, I remember at the time you apologizing in a way for doing it because you had seen us wrestle so much with nepotism at the company.
Right. Mhm.
And the challenges that you face when you hire friends, and I think that you were always really because you kind of were out since you
Yeah.
were away from the company for like 3 years.
Yep.
During kind of when we were making a lot of those challenges, having a lot of those challenges, you were sensitive to it, and that was a big part of what we all had to think about in those days. Where I eventually landed was, you don't ever want to hire someone because they're your friend, but you don't want to not hire someone because they're your friend
Right.
either.
Right.
That was just
Yeah.
like always just ignore that fact, right? Hire the right person for the right job, irrespective of whether
Right.
you're a friend or not.
I have a number of different phrases that I've used throughout my career, and one that a lot of my staff did not like, but I would use it. I would say, you know what? It's not show friends, it's show business. And that's a really cold way to do it, but at a certain point, the business decisions you make within your team affect the whole company. And so
Yeah.
if I make a poor business decision based on show friends, then all it's going to do is it's just going to potentially harm the whole company. And,
Yep. So let's we're almost out of time. Take us. One thing I like to do as we kind of wrap up these shows is like, so whatever happened to Rich Kaalaas?
Yeah.
Where did he go from there?
Oh, golly.
Yeah.
What did he do after that?
It's your grand adventure.
My grand adventure. It's been pretty grand. I've
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
So in 1999, as the creative director, I was, two things were happening. I was actually working on the cover design for the prospectus that we might consider going through an IPO, while at the same time I knew that conversations with Hasbro were happening. Because it was either we're going to go public or we're going to get bought out by Hasbro. And so I was sort of like I was sort of having to do both things, but eventually we did the Hasbro purchase.
Right.
And then in 2000, the very beginning of 2000 is when I made the decision I wanted to kind of step away from the company. At that time, I was overseeing a 55-person creative team, and psychologically, it's not easy. Yeah. Great team, but it definitely had its challenges. So I left the company in 2000. I traveled for about maybe about 3 or 4 months, and then ended up buying a 45-acre horse ranch out in Ravensdale, as you do, Ravensdale, Washington. I wanted some more elbow room.
That's near Seattle.
Yeah, 45 minutes
Near.
southeast of Seattle.
Yeah,
Anyway,
near Seattle.
so the funny thing is that I bought the ranch in March, and then literally in June, Wanda Gregory, who is the director of online media at Wizard of the Coast, reached out to me and said, hey, so Hasbro's looking for someone to sort of be the consulting creative director for the relaunch of Hasbro.com. Are you interested? Whoa. Yes. So, conversations with the current creative director at Wizards, which was John Shindahedi at that time. But then, it worked out that I was going to be the one to do it. So then I started working with Hasbro, did that for 6.5 years. And then went through a number of different personal changes, stepped away.
Would you go from gay to straight this time?
There.
We're friends.
He's funny that way, isn't he?
Yeah.
So no, but I mean, well, let's see. Lost both my parents within a year, ended a 7-year relationship, and so I just needed to make a change. Closed down that company, and then fast forward a few years, I'm with my current husband, George Delmar, who I've been together with now for
Great
11
guy.
years. We have these 45 acres. At one point, we went to list it for sale, but decided not to sell it. And then since 2012, we've actually developed it into one of the premier wedding and event venues in Seattle.
Nice.
It's called Rainfire Ranch, like rains of a
Rain
horse.
like horse.
Oh, I love it.
R-E-I-N, Rainfire Ranch.
Yeah.
And and we actually just did a big Wizards of the Coast sort of reunion event there a month ago. A few weeks ago.
Nice.
Which was really fun.
It was a lot of
It was
fun.
kind of crazy.
Yes, a lot of people that we've had on our show
Yeah.
Yeah.
were there.
Nice.
Yeah, it was.
It's
Thank
funny.
you again for organizing that. People kept coming up to me and thanking me for organizing.
Well, you
it.
were a host.
And,
There.
You were a host.
and I was like, Rich and Suzanne did everything. I just showed up.
Yeah.
So
It was fun.
it
We
was
are
really
probably
cool.
going to do it again at some point.
Yeah. I think every 3 or
Down the
4
road.
years, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. So.
I should check that out. I've actually never ridden a horse before, so it's
We don't do much horseback riding anymore.
Okay.
We do only have 3 horses, but yeah. So
nice.
And do I know correctly? Did you work at Wizards for a while too?
No.
No, I thought you.
Yeah.
For some
I
reason,
haven't actually. I've just like been adjacent to. I feel like I'm surrounded by and keep like meeting more people from Wizards. So
yeah.
like, I'm Wizards adjacent.
Wizards
Yeah.
we hang
Yeah.
out here.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
fun though. There's some
Likely.
great Wizards adjacent people. So,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I aspire
there are
to be
some
one.
fantastic- You
One of
are.
these people in the sphere.
Yes,
It is. I
absolutely.
mean, it's pretty amazing. You know, when people say, "Well, what's your background?" Well, have you ever heard of this game company called Wizards of the Coast? Yes. I mean, when you're from the Seattle area, when you're able to say that,
Right.
it's
That's cool.
it's pretty special. So
Well, and here we are on Gen Con TV, which is part of Gen Con, which used to be part of Wizards of the Coast. So that's great. So, hey, thank you, Rich,
thanks, Peter.
for
Thanks so
joining
much.
us.
Thank you.
Emma, thanks for co-hosting with me.
Thank you for having
today.
me.
Thank you for watching. Thanks to Gen Con TV for hosting us. Thanks to Chaldea Studios to be our location where we can stream from. We will be back again in, is it next week or 2 weeks? Next week with our next guest, who will be John Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
Who was somebody, Wizards came out of a gaming group and also out of a Boeing group. And John and I worked together at Boeing.
Right,
He
right.
was a systems engineer for the Boeing company. And we hired him, and he ended up running all the international business. So you talked about those international translations?
Yep.
Come and hear crazy stories of getting Magic translated into Italian and
there's some-
Portuguese
there's some
and
stories
Korean.
there.
There are some stories there, and he's a wonderful guy. Can't wait to have him on. So he will be on our show next week. That's Wednesday, the whatever date it is, 6th September.
6th September.
Somebody.
6th, yeah.
4th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4th, September 4th. I should have known this. September 4th, John Jordan will be here, and I think Kristen Jensen will be back as my co-host for that show. But between now and then, be sure and come to Gen Con TV on Friday at 11 a.m. for Table Takes and our recap. And you're going to be there, I
Yep.
assume. Emma will be there. Also, on Monday at 5 p.m., also Pacific time, Brothers Murph. Other than that, we'll see you next week. Goodbye. Thank you.
Yay!